In the last video we looked at sketching out some polynomials so that you get a visual representation of what's going on when we have all these letters and numbers, and kind of put some meaning behind what we're doing. So what I'm going to do now is go on to something a little bit more complex, and it's something that comes up in every single exam in some form or another. It's called the factor theorem. Factor theorem. Hopefully this video will be a good introduction into the factor theorem, and maybe it'll take another one before it gets it fully ingrained in you. But let's say I have a new p of x. So a new p of x, and it's going to be equal to x squared plus 4x plus 3. So I'm going to have that as my p of x. So if I asked you to sketch it, then you would look at maybe what does y equals x squared. Oh, that's a terrible x. Let me do that again. Y equals x squared plus 4x plus 3, and then you would try and maybe factorize this and see what we could get out of that. So why don't we actually do that? Why don't we see, if you had to sketch this, what would you have to do? So then we would say that would make y 0 and say, well, if 0 equals, we would have x plus 3 and x plus 1, and that would give us our points of intersection with the x-axis. So we would get our points of intersection being x is equal to minus 3 and x is equal to minus 1. And then let me draw this axes again. So over here, that's not very straight. So we'd have x here and y here. And we'd have our 2 points of intersection at minus 3 and minus 1. And then we draw some curve that comes down like this. Maybe goes up through there. So then this point here would be 3, and then this point here would be minus 1. Now this is a minus 1, by the way, sorry, I missed that earlier. That's a minus 1. And this is a minus 3 here. And then this would be called, we call that our p of x. So that was all quite long and a bit almost unnecessary, really, because there is an easier way. It's called the factor theorem. This is what I'm going to introduce to you in this video. And what it says is that if we have some factor, so some x plus 3 maybe, in that p of x, in that original thing, then we can take its x value, so it's x equals minus 3 in this case. So we can take minus 3, put it in as our x, and then what we'll get out of the end will be 0. So why don't we try that with x minus 3. So we'll say p of minus 3, and it should come out, so we're hoping that this is going to come out as 0. But let's actually do it and make sure. So we have minus 3 squared plus 4 times by minus 3, then plus 3 on the end. So what is that going to be equal to? That minus 3 squared is going to be 9, and then plus minus 12, so minus 12, and then plus 3. So that's a plus 3. So that does come out as 0. So then we can say that because we have a minus 3 there, because p of minus 3 does equal 0, we can say that x plus 3, so you change the sign, x plus 3 is a factor of p of x. So that's what the factor theorem does, and that's going to be maybe a 2 or a 3 mark question in the exam about that. In the next video I'll give you another example, and I'll move on to something called the remainder theorem. See you in the next one.